So at this point, then in 38 or 39, I'm gonna hate myself for not really knowing the answer to that. Hitler marches on Poland, and by 1942, we are in the war. So when we first enter the Second World War, we have just come out of a First World War, a period of decadence by the upper class that has led to a period of famine experienced by everybody, rampant alcoholism because of the trauma from all of those other things, and now we're being thrust into a Second World War. And we have maybe recovered from that. I think technically the Depression ends in like 1938. It's not quite 10 years. It might have been earlier than that.
Dang, that's a long time, though.
It was a really long time.
Yeah.
I think the actual depression was only like 3 or 4 years. But full recovery doesn't happen until the very late 30s.
Yeah.
38, 39. Because that's kind of when we start to see the film industry kick up again. And that's a good metric because the film industry was like in full tilt in the 20s and most of that was crap. But then it sort of dies down a little bit and then kicks off again in like the latter half of the 1930s, especially 1938. That's at least when 1937, 1938 is at least when John Wayne starts making big debuts. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go with that.
Sure.
And then the Japanese attack in 1942. And we say, oh, well, we can't have that anymore. We have just recovered from a lot of things. And we have managed to get our economy, and actually, at least as it appeared, fantastic shape in the early 40s. Most of that because of FDR putting Band-Aids on everything. I don't know that a single thing he did actually proposed a permanent solution, but he did a bang-up job of 20-year solutions, 10, 20-year solutions. So FDR gets elected basically on the platform that I will end the Great Depression. I will make you be able to eat again. And to his credit, he did. Then we get attacked. The Japanese bomb Pearl Harbor in 1942. And all of a sudden, now we had heard of this war, but this was kind of one that we were definitely determined to stay out of.
Yeah, it's like Germany can
because
do their
we
thing.
Remember what happened the last time we got involved in a war in Europe. But then the impetus doesn't come from the west or the east. It comes from the farther west, across the Pacific.
And then the Fire Nation attacked.
Yes, the Fire Nation attacks. The Japanese attack basically without warning. And we know we had been helping the Chinese fend them off a little bit, but we're pretty sure that, they just kind of want China. They just want to attack China. They still have a beef with Russia. But no, then they just attack Pearl Harbor basically without warning. And they leave a lot of our men dead at the bottom of the ocean. And at this point, after the United States has gone through all of that and basically 5 seconds ago just gotten back on its feet, we go, no. So then we open up the engine, put the pedal to the floor, and we do World War II. Same as the first, a whole lot louder and a whole lot worse.
But without any of the charming music to it.
Yeah. So. And it's also worth noting that just after the Second World War, because that ends 1945, or 1946. I get my dates wrong. The purpose of a historian is not to have dates and places memorized. It is to know the effects of events on history and on the course of history. If you get things off by a single year, if you claim to be a historian and are going to bite me in the ass for that, you're not a real historian. Shut up. I don't care what your degree says.
To one of your points about our response to the war, what it kind of called to mind was a funny image of how America acts in wars since then, which is, well, we're kind of just all doing our own thing, but then, we don't know what we're going to do when we get attacked, which means we're just
Yeah.
going to be very unpredictable and
We're going to be
kill every
unpredictable. We're kind of going to sit here, and if we get attacked, we're just going to
kill everybody
kill
in our way.
everything we see. Yeah.
Yeah. But the way you presented that kind of brought that up, but put a dark spin on it,
Yeah. Because
unfortunately.
we have just recovered from all of that bad. And then the Fire Nation attacks, and we go, oh, not this time.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to be caught with our trousers down this time. We were somewhat prepared for a war. And within a year, we are the second most powerful force in the entire war after Germany.
We've spun up the industrial engine before. We can do so again.
When we do it again, and we this time do the same thing we did in the First World War, but better, we train even more men for an even shorter period of time to be able to be fit for duty and fit for combat. But the results of that war on the individual are the same, if not worse, because this time the men that we are sending off to war are already affected by the previous 40 years.
True.
In some way. We have men who were born and raised during the Depression.
Well, there's the trickle down
Men,
effects of fatherhood too.
it's, yeah, men
Yeah.
who are probably inheriting some of the bad things from their father's trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were somehow managed to be, to go off into this war and be among the least traumatized people, the only way that you're coming out of the second one is by also being among the least traumatized of them. If you're in the Signal Corps, if you're a test pilot, if you're in the Seabees, that's the Navy's construction branch.
Mm-hmm.
They just build stuff for the Navy. That's all they do. They don't actually do any fighting. They may be armed for self-defense purposes, but they don't actually fight. But if you're in any combat role whatsoever, you're coming back broken in some way. Because you've probably seen some things. The only way you can be in combat and come back somewhat not really broken and kind of okay, is if you're a pilot and you somehow don't see planes getting shot out of the sky on a regular basis, or if you're like the navigator on a bomber or something. But what we have after that, basically the entire world has this mindset, but after the Second World War, in basically every aspect of life, everyone involved comes together and says, this is never happening again.
Good idea.
So the United States looks back at the last 40 years of what has been done and then goes, this is never happening again. So there's an attempt to learn from our mistakes. But culturally, we are thinking, never again are we just going to ignore people who are in pain. Never again are we just going to party until our arms fall off. And never again are we going to allow for an economic crash. And the suburbs are kind of born out of that. And this is why, while we shouldn't be nostalgically admiring the 1950s as some great utopia, we should also be very understanding of the people that made it.
Oh, I
or the
agree.
people that thought of it. Because for the last basically 50 years of that century, this country experienced one form of chaos or the other. Because also in the 1940s, basically immediately after the Second World War, we had polio. And a lot of people...
We haven't had enough, somehow.
It's one thing after another for this whole century. We can't catch a break.
Yep.
After the end of the Second World War, it's like, oh, good. Polio now. Oh, good. Now I can't breathe and I can't walk. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I survived yellow fever. Not yellow.
I survived the First World War, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression, and now I'm stuck in an iron lung.
Yay.
Yay.
Said no one ever.
Yeah. So basically, I can fully understand why there might be this desire. It might not have even been a blatant thing. I doubt a bunch of people got into a room and said, "Hey, we've had a lot of chaos. Let's come up with something ordered." That there's at least a desire, or why the suburbs appealed to people,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody who has been experiencing a considerable amount of chaos for the last 50 years is now looking at that, or they are the sons of men who were products of that chaos, are
Mm-hmm.
looking at that and they're going, I kind of want that. I want order. But basically, when you go from almost no order whatsoever to perfect order, or at least what's supposed to be perfect order, there's the whiplash effect there.